Good morning and or afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're calling from. Hello and welcome to the first in the Drug-Free Action Alliance program webinar series. Today's session will feature the No program. Due to the quantity of callers, all attendees will be muted throughout the webinar. However, we do want your feedback, so if you have questions, please enter them into the questions field on your GoToWebinar navigation bar. Technical assistance questions will be answered in the order in which they are received, and program-specific questions will be queued until the Q&A portion of the session. Should you have technical difficulty during today's webinar, please contact the GoToWebinar helpline at 800-263-6317, and you will need to have your webinar ID available for you. Again, that number is 800-263-6317, and the webinar ID is 161-981-425. The webinar ID will also show on your navigation bar. My name is Derek Longmire, and I will serve as today's moderator. In addition to Drug-Free Action Alliance staff, today's webinar will also include our friends from Butler County, Ohio, who have implemented the No program on both a school and community level for many years. For those of you unfamiliar with Drug-Free Action Alliance, we are a nonprofit organization with specialization in program development focused on strengthening community coalitions and enhancing environmental prevention. Drug-Free Action Alliance is based in Columbus, Ohio, with programming implemented in all 50 states, as well as U.S. territories and other countries. Thank you all again for joining us today. We have just a brief overview to look at kind of what we're going to be covering through today. Hopefully this will give you what you need, whether you are implementing No currently or just interested in getting additional information for potentially implementing No in the future. And Michelle, can you give us a quick overview of No's history?
Said, depending on where you are. No is a program of Drug-Free Action Alliance. No was developed in 2001 by the United Way of Central Ohio, and DFAA was selected in a competitive process to take it over in 2005. No was created to increase public awareness and to coordinate a consistent community-wide message about substance prevention. Our primary target audience is the parents of 11 to 13-year-olds, but much of what we cover directly relates to older teens as well. No provides information to prevent adolescent use of alcohol and other drugs. No has three main goals. That is, to increase parental awareness that every child is at risk for using substances, to increase parental knowledge about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, and most importantly, to increase the number of conversations parents have with their children about not drinking, smoking, or using other drugs. Parent tips are sent out via email twice monthly. Topics covered include new and emerging drugs, as well as the ones that have long been a problem, like alcohol, marijuana, and inhalants, to name a few. But we also address a variety of other substance-related, tween-related issues, including suicide, bullying, self-esteem, healthy relationships, texting, social media, and tween stress, things like that. We also talk about signs of use and what to do if you suspect your child is using, to help parents know when to seek help and to provide them with resources to get the help they need. Here is an example of what a No parent tip looks like. This particular tip was a reminder for parents to talk about underage drinking. This tip provides language parents can use to get the alcohol-focused conversation started and questions to pose to your child to keep it flowing. The full tip and others are archived on the No page at drugfreeactionalliance.com/no. Let's talk about why middle school years. We call it the vulnerable middle school years. It's students around the ages of 11 to 13. It is when kids are first being exposed to substances and where they are first starting to envision themselves using. Therefore, we target the parents of 11 to 13-year-olds. At the time of No's inception, most prevention programs focused on younger or older children, but there wasn't much focus on this age group. As for this being a big time of testing boundaries, Although is there really a time when kids aren't testing boundaries? It seems that they always are, but research-based studies show that middle school is a time when youth are doing so in regards to substance use. It is also a time when peer pressure really kicks in and more youth are willing to take risks for a variety of reasons. Based on strong research foundation, KNOW was created to address the critical but neglected ages of 11 to 13-year-olds. Why parents? Long-term research clearly shows that parents can have the greatest influence on their child's decision whether to use alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs. Youth tell us they do not want to disappoint their parents by using such substances. Moms and dads are often identified by children as their most trustworthy sources of information and guidance on substances. Adolescents and teens say they want and need this information from their parents. Most teens who don't use alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs credit their parents for their decision. Parents are crucial in helping prevent this behavior, but many are not aware that their child is at risk, or they may feel ill-equipped to respond. There is an urgent need to get this information to parents to remind them how vital their role is and to encourage them to have continuous conversations even when the talking gets tough. Yes, the influence of peer pressure, movies, and music is powerful, but the fact is parents, grandparents, mentors, and other caregivers are just as powerful when they weigh in with their influence. Parents need to know they can teach their children to view alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs as a serious concern, and that they can influence their children's decision about whether or not to use these substances.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll now turn things over to Allison to talk about some of the evaluation behind KNOW.
So what you see in front of you is the logic model for KNOW, and some of it absolutely covers some of the things that Michelle just spoke about. We know that middle school is a time of age of first use for most students. We also know that the transition from middle school to high school is a time of great risk. And that those no-use messages from parents do tend to decrease from grades 6 through 12. And some of that, I think, is just about rite of passage and things that parents just kind of either become easy about or figure they've laid their groundwork. And yet we know research, as Michelle said, supports the role that parents play, but there seems to be a condition where parents, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between the level of influence that parents have, as well as how much they actually engage in trying to use that influence. So parents need relevant and timely information, but we also know parents are busy. They're very difficult to reach, which is why our outputs for KNOW really are about taking information to them in manageable chunks that they could get via their own email twice per month with new and engaging information to constantly educate and reinforce and remind them to engage in these conversations, as well as to have the information and tools to do so. So we also include our web-based resources that support the KNOW tips as one of our outputs. All of this is for the outcomes that you see in front of you, the short-term outcomes. Parents reporting increase in knowledge of information about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, as well as more awareness that their child is at risk for this issue. Our intermediate outcome would be to then increase the number of conversations, which of course long-term should increase the percent of youth who are receiving clear no-use messages from their parents, and all of that should lead to longer-term population-level impacts of a lower number of youth who are engaging in alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use, as well as for any who do eventually use, that at minimum the age of first use is delayed. So let's take a look at the evaluation history and how we got there. Basically, we've had our evaluation evolve over time, as many programs do, and of course a great deal of that is always funding dependent. When we started the program back in 2000, we got things in line and created a relationship with an outside evaluator who did a baseline survey countywide here in Central Ohio in 2001. Then we were in 2 communities, and in 2003 and 2005 there was some surveying done. Then we expanded to 4 new communities, and that created the need, and some new evaluation questions were present where we wanted to do a new baseline in 4 new communities. Some lingering questions were there, but unfortunately due to some funding changes we did need to simplify our evaluation and bring it in-house, and that survey began in 2008 and has been an annual survey done in-house ever since. So I do want to take a look back at the 2001 to 2005 and take a look at a tale of two cities. So as we look at two of our communities that were done in the initial evaluation, I'm not going to go through all the details. You can see them in front of you, but Community 1 was more of a suburban community and more of a mid and upper class suburban community, and Community 2 was more of an inner city urban site. And it was really a subset of a larger public school district here in the area. So you can see that these two communities did vary a great deal in some of their key economic and demographic differences. Some of our observations from the 2001 to 2005 evaluation, which we feel are pretty pertinent, is looking at how we reconcile parental attitudes and beliefs about their child's level of risk with the number of conversations they're having with their youth. In Community 1, which was our suburban community, the perception of risk actually did go up. We did see an increase from where it was a little bit low, and it did increase quite a bit with the use of no tips. And that perception of risk actually in Community 2 didn't have a lot of room to go. It was already pretty high among those parents in the inner city or urban community. The number of conversations was a little higher in the suburban community at start than it was in Community 2, our more urban inner city community, and it did remain steady in the suburban community. So we didn't really necessarily increase the number of conversations, but they were already at a pretty good average number. Community 2 did increase the number of communications. But the more detailed look at this evaluation result really set us off on some investigation about how perception of risk of my own child will play into how often I have a communication with them. And again, just a quick side thought on this. We talk about numbers of conversations. They aren't meant to be every time you sit down and have like a lecture. It could really be a teachable moment. It could really be just bringing up and reinforcing and reminding, or pulling up just one fact or something that came up from a commercial or a TV show, and how to just make this an ongoing part of active parenting versus a single conversation, check it off your list and feel like you've done it. So from 2001 to 2005, some insights that we gained. From the beginning, Community 2, our more inner city community parents, showed that they feel more strongly that alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use, as well as its correlates, already has negative consequences and does pose a threat to their child. So they already had a fairly high perception of risk to begin with. And our researchers wanted to break that down and look at that a little bit more. So we see that a parent's perception of risk is really based on three different factors: personal involvement, attitude knowledge, and attitude certainty. And I just want to break this down a little bit in the time that we have. Personal involvement simply means having real life or personal relevant conversation triggers. For example, if in our family we have a number of friends or some relatives who use or have used, and it may end up meaning there's more conversation triggers because it's just around us or in front of us more. Or that they may have seen a child using in the community, or suspected their own child of using, or seen a stranger using that may have been an adult, or just simply the neighborhood environment, and just that it's more prevalent and therefore more seen and known about. And Community 2, our inner city parents, had a much higher sense of personal involvement at 50% versus our suburban community. That figure was 32%. When it comes to attitude knowledge about the issue, this is parents feeling that they have the information needed in order to protect their child. So the sense of risk would be, if I don't feel like I have the information I need to protect my child, then my child is more at risk. So it does contribute to a sense of risk. Community number 1, our suburban parents actually reported a higher need for information about how to talk effectively with their kids. And this was interesting to us, and so we had some questions. Does Community 2, our inner city community, whose perception of risk was more consistently high throughout, did they feel that they already knew what to say and how to say it, and they just needed a prompt to speak more often? Or was Community 1 already talking more with their children, the suburban community, and so they may have been more attuned to the need for feeling like they needed more message content? So this kind of led us to some lingering questions about numbers of conversations versus how could we measure better the quality of conversations. And that's an area that would really be great to have a great deal more research on. Attitude certainty is our third factor, and an insight that we gained about that. First, let me define that. Attitude certainty is the extent to which parents would know without a doubt that their child was using. How confident are they that they would know if that were going on? Community 2, our inner city parents scored significantly higher and clearly felt more certain about their ability to perceive risk from their own child than a suburban parent did at the time in that survey. So some other insights gained, and where we kind of landed with some things we could pull from that initial round of research was that parental action is tied to an emotional feeling of risk, not just a cognitive understanding of risk, and that facts alone will not motivate them. This feeling of threat or risk translates into changes in behavior when appropriate action steps are provided that can reduce the likelihood of negative consequences. So when this occurs, there's an attitude and behavior consistency that results. And basically what this is saying is that what parents feel is correlated with what parents do. So we, of course, always, in our no tips even today, make sure there's always action steps and that we're not just stating facts, but that we're connecting it enough that we're hoping to spark some feeling and not just a cognitive reaction to those facts. Understanding how perceived risk predicts prevention's behaviors was also kind of a focus in our expanded survey, and when we expanded our tips into 4 new communities and did a new baseline survey in 2006. So we had some new areas of inquiry. Quickly, some things that came out of that were understanding how perceived risk predicts prevention behaviors. And this could look a little confusing, but I don't want you to see it as such. If you look at this matrix, along the left side we have the number of times the parent reports, self-reports that they talk with their child in the past month, and then cross-referencing that in other parts of the survey with the level of risk or worry they had about whether their child was at risk for substance abuse. Basically, those parents who perceive their child to be less at risk and who feel uncomfortable talking with their children report talking least often with their children. So I don't think my kid's much at risk and I'm not comfortable having this conversation, so they were less likely to have one at all. Interestingly, parents who were more worried, had a sense of higher risk, did engage in more conversations as a whole, but those who engaged in the most conversations were actually the parents who were the most uncomfortable doing it, which was really surprising to us. They were actually averaging that 4 times a month. So they had a high sense of risk, but they were uncomfortable doing it, but they forged ahead anyway. It's important to validate that for parents. But even those who are comfortable, how do we keep spurring them to have more conversations and not become, I guess, lackadaisical about it? So some findings, summaries from the 2006, some recommendations that came from our researchers were that many parents reported discomfort when talking to their child about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. But those who have a perception of risk will talk anyway. And talking with a child need not be comfortable, but it does need to be done effectively. And our tips have to encourage parents to consistently push through those feelings of discomfort. So often our tips will acknowledge and validate that it can feel uncomfortable, but reinforce the need to do it anyway, and here are the skills or information you need to get it done. Our annual year-end survey that we then brought the evaluation in-house in 2008 and have been annually doing that survey since is really the research that we are left with today that really guides the tips. Annually, our goal is to survey all parents who receive the no parent tips, and year to year the return rate varies, although we're very happy with the return rate every year. We use SurveyMonkey because we're now using email tips, so it's very easy to get that link out to all parents. We place some incentives into completing that survey as well, so that helps with that return rate. So these simpler measures have been related more to our 3 key goals, and I'm going to report out some results per those goals. And that this is, again, more of a survey than it is the level of research we had when we had that outside evaluator. So our main goal with our current annual survey is to just help ensure that the tips are meeting their needs and that we are seeing progress on our overall goals. So here's what parents tell us, and I just wanted to report out the latest survey results, which have been very consistent, although this past year I think they were in most areas a little higher than they have been even in past years, but we've been pleased every year since 2008 with our results. Goal number 1 was, of course, to increase parental knowledge of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. And 93% of our parents surveyed stated that they did learn something new about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs as a result of receiving the tips. A nice 89% of the respondents also placed no as one of their top means, and I mean it was listed as the top means of receiving updated information for talking with their children. When it comes to goal number 2, parents told us, well, first off, goal number 2 was to increase parental awareness that their child is at risk for using alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. And 94% of our no parents agreed that having the tips have increased their awareness of the risk that their child could be using or could someday make the choice to use alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. When it comes to goal number 3, which is to increase the number of conversations that parents have with their child about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, we have excellent results here as well. 80% agreed that they have increased the number of conversations since receiving no parent tips. 75% stated that as a result of no, they have taken other action steps to keep their child drug-free. And 88% said that they have learned new ways to keep their child drug-free. Now, this is more of an intermediate goal. It would take longer, certainly, to achieve, and our survey actually is a mix of all parents, including those who have only been receiving the tips for a year versus those who may have been receiving it for 2 or 3 years because their child has been aging while they are getting the no tips. So we would love to have the capacity to be able to break this data down more. Unfortunately, we just don't have that internal capacity at this time. What parents tell us overall, a nice finding that is the last finding I wanted to share with you, is that 96% of parents tell us that they find the tips to be helpful to them in keeping their child drug-free. And that is an astounding percentage at 96%. We're very proud of that. One last evaluation note before I turn it back over is that our no parent tips have been found throughout all of our different evaluation, regardless of the structure and design of that evaluation, to be effective as a general approach. We do always want to emphasize that we acknowledge that communities differ and that we're using these no parent tips and getting them out to many communities that have some very different needs or things that may be going on with perception of risk among those parents. So ideally, no would be implemented as part of a comprehensive community approach and be a complement to things that are also already going on in the community that are directed at parents. Also, just a quick note, the No Workbook can certainly help supplement the tips with more in-depth information on key topics and parental action steps that could really help communities take the no tips to the next level and make it more a part of a community approach that is comprehensive. I'll be back when we have questions and answers at the end if you do have questions about the evaluation, but otherwise I'm going to turn it back over to Derek.
Thank you, Allison. And Michelle will take it from here to talk about what we're calling our teachable moments. And Michelle.
Thank you. Okay, well, when it comes to preventing children from drinking, smoking, and using other drugs, parents are a child's first line of defense. You know who else has heavy influence on children? Teachers. What they share in their classroom can positively impact a child's decision to not use alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, or other drugs. Teachers have an incredible opportunity to guide students toward making healthy, drug-free lifestyle choices. So today we are letting you in on a top-secret project that is in process called Teachable Moments. No's Teachable Moments will actually build on the current No Parent Tips. So whether in the classroom or at home, students will be provided with a consistent message. The No Teachable Moments will be distributed monthly, and this program expansion is still in development. However, attendees of today's webinar will receive an email inviting you to sign up for the No Teachable Moments as soon as it is available. And just like the No Parent Tips, these No Teachable Moments will be free.
We are very excited about expanding out to the teachable moments and think that this will be a good value for the communities that are already implementing No and will be a strong connection between those parents and those students. So thank you, Allison and Michelle, for your words. We'll now turn things over to our friends in Butler County. We have with us Amy Masechko. We also have Dan Ura and Karen Murphy. Dan, over to you.
Thanks, Derek. My name's Dan Ura, and I've been working with the Oxford Coalition for 10 years and the Butler County Coalition for a few years. So we've been about this for a while. The Oxford Coalition was a fortunate recipient of the Drug-Free Community Grant for 10 years. And one of the requirements of the grant is to engage the 12 identified DOC sectors in the community process. Early on, we started engaging the parent sector and finding a way in which to begin to inform them and build their interest to become proactive in the underage drinking issue. We were looking as a community for a program that was directed towards parents. And I attended a statewide prevention coalition association hosted and meets at the Drug-Free Action Alliance. One of the programs presented that day was the NO. The program was being piloted in Franklin County and funded by United Way. The Oxford Coalition decided that the NO program would be a great community program and a good way to partner with the school district to provide messages to parents and to build attachment with the coalition. About the same time as we were reviewing and examining our PRIDE student survey data, we began to notice that it indicated the age of use and experimentation was moving down into the middle school grades and was becoming a real concern in those transitional and formative years. In recent years, we have found that as it moved down even further, we are now addressing them from the primary grades through the high school. The combination of the trends being identified in our data and the need to inform and engage parents solidified our decision to partner with the Drug-Free Action Alliance to bring the NO program to the Oxford and the Talawanda School District. Another consideration for the coalition was that we wanted to introduce programs in the community that were and are more impactful than just a one-shot program. Programs that would build upon themselves and could be integrated with our other prevention efforts to become a part of the fabric of the community. Amy and Karen will tell you a whole lot more about that. The coalition's commitment and view that prevention was and is a community-based and driven process led us in the direction of infusing the NO program into the community, so it has become much more than the school-based program it was first intended to be. Because we all have a role in prevention, we are all assets in the lives of others, especially our young folks. We implemented the program. The NO program has let us engage parents and the community in the coalition community's prevention by letting parents know how to address these real-life issues with their children. The NO provides timely and informative updates, and the NO empowers all of us to be contributors and to be an asset-rich community. Now, Amy Maschersko from the Oxford Coalition will give you the inside scoop on how the coalition has grown to NO in the community, so you will be in the know.
Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. I work with the Coalition for a Healthy Community in the greater Oxford area. Oxford, Ohio is located north of Cincinnati, and it's the home of Miami University. And our coalition truly does bridge both the campus and the community together. Our catchment area for the catchment area for our work is the Talawanda School District, which is representative of the city of Oxford and 4 surrounding townships. Our school system has approximately 3,000 students. We have found that the NO program is a very simple program to implement, but very, very powerful as well. By receiving these bi-monthly tips from the Drug-Free Action Alliance, we are able to share them in a variety of ways. We post them on our school website. We include them in both our middle and high school weekly building e-news articles that go out to all of our parents. And this was interesting. We started just with sending them out to our middle school parents, but we got a lot of feedback from our high school parents as well, saying that they got so used to receiving them in their middle school years, and they were really missing them and wanted them. And so we now have included them for our high school students, high school parents as well. We share them with our staff, our local coalition leaders, and members of our local health coordinating council as well. But in my experience, we found that others are consistently asking to receive them. It is inevitable after a community presentation on our coalition and school district work that I will have folks approach me and ask to be included on the mailing list that we send them out to. They are sharing them with their family members and their loved ones too. I also had a parent who works in our community but whose child attends a neighboring district. And she approached and asked if she could be added to the list because her friends received the tips and had shared them with her, and she really wanted to be in on the information for her own children. We have found that this program generates incredible community dialogue among parents and community members at large, and everybody wants to be included. Next, please. We have taken advantage of other avenues to reach out to our families in the Talawanda School District because we want to make sure to reinforce that this program is part of our overall comprehensive strategy to address substance use in our district and the greater community. As an introduction to the program, at our 6th grade orientation, the administration has been very supportive of allowing myself to take a few minutes at the orientation session to introduce parents to the NO program, as well as provide each parent with one of the workbooks that the earlier speakers mentioned as an introduction to the program. So they actually have something physical in their hands to take with them. And then when the NO tips start coming by email, it will be a familiar thing to everyone. In addition, we have our prevention program geared around our student athletes called Learning Empowers Athletes' Decisions. And really the program is based upon working with coaches and parents that we are sending consistent messages to our young people about the dangers of substance use. We remind high school parents of the NO resource and encourage them to utilize it with their student athletes even in their high school years. Next, please. One of the most exciting opportunities that we've had is to see how the NO message truly has spread beyond just being a school-based program and really taken wings within our own community. I've had parents share that they feel that these tips are very relevant in their own line of work, and therefore they often share them with their own colleagues. We have members of our faith community who infuse the NO tips into their monthly bulletins that they send out to their congregations. Local civic and community organizations have become very much interested in this work and have actually helped to fund the way that we support the community-based program, such as the purchasing of the NO workbooks for our 6th grade families as well. Our physicians' offices are very much engaged and champion this particular program. One of my favorite stories has to do with one of our local pediatricians, and she shared with us that she was having a conversation with one of her patients, and the parent was in the room as well, and she was talking to them specifically on the issue of substance use. And at the same time as this conversation was happening, the parent interrupted and said, "That is the same message that I just received from one of the NO tips." So I think that is just truly an example how if physicians are sharing the same messages as our parents, as our teachers, as our faith-based leaders, we are really going to make a difference for the young people in all of our communities. Next, please. As Dan alluded to, one of the many benefits of the NO program is that we have found it to easily fit in with our other prevention efforts to further reinforce the importance of having caring adults talk with young people on a regular basis about the dangers of substance use. Even though we have programs that are targeting specific populations, by including the NO logo or tagline, it only reinforces the messages and demonstrates the connectivity to others in the community. Here are just 2 examples. On the left-hand side is a sample poster from our middle school social marketing campaign, Stay in Step. And our thought was by including the NO logo, No to Stay in Step, it'll help resonate with both parents and students when they see these posters both in our schools and out in the greater community. In addition, on the right-hand side, our community very much embraces the Parents Who Host Lose the Most, Don't Be a Party to Teenage Drinking program as well. And by including the NO logo in this and know that you make a difference, encouraging parents to adopt and act on the ideals of both of the programs, we have found the synergy of both programs together to be a tremendous benefit to our community. And now I will turn it over to Karen Murray to speak about the county initiative.
Good afternoon. I'm with the Butler County Coalition. Butler County has just over 360,000 residents living in this area. And the coalition was actually a hope of many in the county, but particularly the Oxford folks had hoped there'd be a county coalition as a part of their local coalition sustainability plan, a group that could leverage greater dollars by having a broader base of individuals that it was serving. And also, we know that lots of kids go to Oxford from other parts of the county to hang out, and the Oxford kids gravitate. This was even before social media was drawing kids together like it does. So we wanted to be able to send consistent messages throughout the county. So when the county coalition got up and running about 5 years ago, it really, you need some quick wins and some ways to get your name out there, and we naturally gravitated towards the No program. It was a trusted resource in two of our communities at the point that we came on board, the Fairfield community and the Oxford community. And so we worked very hard in the first year of the coalition to try to get the No program into other school districts in throughout Butler County. And I believe we were in 7 at the peak, and actually received some funding when there was some community partner funding available through Drug Free Action Alliance to help us make that happen. But it's so inexpensive now with it being e-tips, you really don't need funding. Lesson learned working with schools, when I say at our peak we were at 7 schools, the person who gets, shoulder tapped to send the messages out on a regular basis can be fluid in some districts, and it takes work keeping on top of who is actually pushing the send button, and some years we miss. And but so if you are working with schools, don't assume every year it will continue to be implemented if you don't check base with them, because it might be the thing that in the transitioning of job duties got dropped, and oh my gosh, what a loss to a community, because one person's not sitting at their desk, that now so many aren't getting the information. So consistent messages across the community. Next, Derek. Another way we use No, when we were launching the county coalition to the community, we chose to do an insert with Cox Media, and I'm sure hopefully your local newspapers do these kind of publications. If you've ever gotten your weekend update that comes in your newspaper, it's a little mini newspaper within the newspaper. Well, we were able to do, I think it's an 8-page insert that we were able to introduce the county coalition, what local coalitions are doing, and many of our concerns throughout the community about youth substance abuse. And again, No is that trusted and recognized brand, and so we incorporated. So what you're looking at is the front page of this newspaper insert. So if you were to visualize it, if you were to picture a full-page newspaper folded in half, that's the size of what you're looking at here. And so we said, be in the know. And if Derek, if you'll flip like the next slide. Derek, can you flip to the next slide, please? Again, we did.
It's working on it.
I'm going to do these real quickly, Derek. Go to the next one. Derek, we talked about, we incorporated the developing brain. Go to the next one, Derek. Derek.
And Karen, there's a bit of a delay, so when you hit it, then I'll get it.
Now you can see here. Okay. Okay, thanks, Derek. I didn't know if it's you sleeping over there or what. On the note, so you can see here we inserted the No tip on this page, talking to what parents need to know, and so we incorporate the No. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Again, we get to show this is information about our survey results. This was a very powerful publication that went into 70,000 homes throughout Butler County. And I would encourage you to see if your local media sources do these. They're very economical because a lot of it is based on the selling of the ads, and then you get the writing, the space for your. Can we skip to the next one, please? prescription drug abuse, when we launched the coalition several years ago, that was when the emerging trend. And here again, we've actually put in 2 no tips. And I just want to point out, anytime we have used the no outside of the traditional email format, we are constantly checking in with Drug Free Action Alliance to make sure that what we're doing is consistent with their intent and their objectives with the program. And it is a copyrighted brand, and so we want to make sure. But Drug Free Action Alliance has been very easy to work with and very encouraging of appropriate placement. And so far, we've been able to do most of what we've been able to do, wanted to do in general. So if we can skip to the last page of the tab, and what we in this locale, that last page that just slipped past, you purchased the back page as the person who owns the tab, and then you work with others to sell the ads on the inside. And we ended up with 300 overruns of it, and we were able to share that. To this day, I still have some that when I go to legislators, I take a copy of it. If we have a new person come onto the coalition. So I would encourage you to look into your local media to see if you can produce something like this. Okay, next slide, please. Again, know how it can, we've been talking, Amy, over myself, that you can brand other initiatives. Our prescription drug campaign is Keep It Out of Reach. This is a bookmark showing the front of the bookmark and the back of the bookmark. So you can see no to secure, no to monitor, no to dispose. It's a trusted. People have seen it. It's come home at school. Now they're seeing it at the police department when they're dropping off their medications at our drug take-back day. So it just works as a wonderful, immediate, this is a good source kind of thing. Next frame, please. Know to work with the media. I've already mentioned the insert. We've also become pretty savvy working with the digital technology that's available through our local media. What you're looking at right now is a banner ad. If you can see, it's kind of in the right-hand corner. That was actually a really cool one because it has movement to it. So it came up with no, and then like it flew in Butler County Coalition, and then it flew in brought to you by, I guess it was the other way around. But then you click on that, and it would go to a landing page that had a no tip on it. And before we skip to the next page, further down on this page that you aren't able to see, we also were the hot topic for that day as well. And if people, it looks like it's an article, but it actually goes to our information, and it went to a no tip. So Derek, if you'll click to the next page, they can see the no tip that it was the landing page for this. You can also have the landing page be your website, but we opted to go with the no tip. And this was really cool because within this no tip, you could dig even deeper because there were links to other resources for parents depending on how far they wanted to go into the information base. And what's really cool about working with this digital technology, depending on your resource in your community, there's thousands of fields that they can target people. And so if you've ever been shopping for shoes and then all of a sudden you notice that, oh, there's shoe ads popping up in the corner of my Facebook, that's what, we can do that. Coalitions can do that by working with our media partners. So if I've got, on this one, I think we had, the field was health, grandparents, parents, geographic. We were targeting specific zip codes. And so your message gets delivered to the people you want it to go to. It's not like when you purchase the newspaper insert, it's going to go to a lot of people and maybe hit some of your folks. This, you target it to the folks. If you're trying to get a marijuana message out, their filters will catch people who are online looking for information about marijuana. It's really fascinating technology, and it's not only linked to, depending how you do the buy, it's not only linked to the newspaper page. Our group happens to be in line with Yahoo, so we can come up on Yahoo sites as well when we have ads running. So it's amazing technology, and No works really well with it. Skip to the next one, please. Know to be culturally competent. We worked with Michelle, and actually this was more Dan's effort than mine, but we wanted to translate some of the no tips into into Spanish language. More difficult than we thought it was going to be, but it was well worth the effort, and we learned a lot about how hard, being culturally competent, what does that mean? But we worked with Michelle Morse to identify, I think originally maybe 5 to 6 of the tips that we wanted to translate, and then we identified someone who could translate into the most general form of the language, Spanish language in our community, because it can vary from community to community. And then we had another person who could do the translation, and we had them go back and forth multiple times, and then we would also send it to one of our local coalition partners who serves the Spanish-speaking community in Butler County to give us practical feedback. And along the way, we found out pretty quickly that one of the tips did not make sense because the cultural values were different. And I don't know if Dan can chime in more. No, you're okay on that. So we dropped one of the tips because it didn't mean the same thing in the Spanish-speaking culture as it did in the English-speaking culture. And so these tips are available, and I think we ended up with 5 of them that were translated. Okay, and I think you can see Derek or them can let you know if they're available, but we were really excited to be a part of that. So we do think it's important to be culturally competent. Next, please. Now, this is an idea we haven't implemented yet, but I hope that at some point we're able to pull it off. We want to, again, trying to get into other sectors of the community. We were trying to think, how do we use the no with the business sector, the retail, and the hospitality parts of our community? And you're seeing a mock-up of a button that we were hoping through partnering with our folks who provide server training, that as servers and managers come through server training, that maybe we could give them a button that says no, we card. And then, when you go into places like Fridays and different restaurants, they all have buttons on their suspenders and their shirts. And so we hope that someday we might be able to get retail operations throughout the county to have this no, we card. And then the next slide is related to this, if Derek wants to go ahead and flip to it. Not only, having it on people, but how folks have the we card signs in there when you do your environmental scans, and you look for signage about carding. We thought, well, hey, couldn't we just print out a big sign that we could give to our retail merchants that, again, has the no we card? I do want to point out, I don't think the Help Them Know is an active website. I think Drug-Free Action Alliance can clarify that. These were made prior to a change in the website, so don't copy that verbatim, anyone. But we think that this technique would be a great way to get no into that access, when we're trying to get at the root cause of access to young people and the community norm of what the expectations are in our community. I think that's my last slide. Just another couple ideas I think that I'd like to see us down the road. Incorporating no into tweeting, looking at mobile technology of, there's different programs like text 561 no to get your monthly no tip, or a no app. Those are the kind of things I hope that maybe can evolve, because it's a great program, and thanks for letting us share, and I think Dan's going to throw something in.
Hey, Derek, before we hang up, all 3 of us just want to tell everybody what a great pleasure it's been to work with the Drug-Free Action Alliance, but particularly on the no effort and how professional it is, the easy use, and they're not just professional folks to work with, they're friends on a professional and a personal level. So thank you guys very much.
Well, thank you, Dan. We greatly appreciate that feedback, especially Michelle. She's been our point person for no for many years, and we just greatly appreciate the collaboration we've been able to have for so many years, not only related to no, but as Amy had mentioned, with Parents Who Host. So we thank you, Dan, Karen, and Amy, for all that you do. Michelle's going to talk about the no workbook shortly, and then we will be opening it up to questions and answers. We do have some questions already, but if you have some things that you've not yet heard the answer to and are kind of wondering about, please ask that question into the questions pane of your GoToWebinar navigation panel, and we will answer them in the order in which they're received. Now we'll take it over to Michelle to talk about the No Parent Workbooks.
Karen and Dan, I just want to reiterate what Derek said. The three of you are fabulous, and the work you do is amazing. So we are grateful to have you on today's call to share all the creative and great work that you do. So again, thank you. An additional resource that both Amy and Allison had mentioned earlier is our No Parent Workbook. And these sell for just $3.50 per book, and there is no minimum order. You can do one book, you can do 100. It's whatever you need. The workbook provides parents and other caregivers with guidelines to help them make the most of their influence. It is targeted to the parents of 11 to 13-year-olds, but it can certainly reach older age groups as well. The materials and the exercises are great for not just middle school, but some high school. You can visit Drug Free Action Alliance website for a sneak peek or to place an order. And as Karen had mentioned, to help them know, that website no longer exists. When we reworked our website, it is now just drugfreeactionalliance.org, and then you can access No along with all the other programs that we do through that one site. Derek, that's all I had for right now as far as the workbook.
Well, thank you again to everyone that has assisted us on the call here. Again, special thanks to Karen, Dan, and Amy, as well as Michelle for coming in and helping us out here. We do have several questions. The first question came from Deb, and can Butler send an electronic copy of the newspaper insert and coalition update? Can some of the Butler folks respond to that?
Sure, I'll send it to Derek and he can forward it out.
Yep, I will be more than happy to do that. So I will just email it on to everyone once I receive it from our friends in Butler County. Then Vivian is asking, are there templates available to use in other communities and topics? And I'll look to Michelle or Allison.
Could you clarify that question, Derek?
The question that Vivian sent, and Vivian, if you could clarify a little bit more, are there templates available to use in other communities and topics? She was referencing that to some of the things that Butler County had done, and it was branded with no.
Are we still muted? Or
Well, I'm not still sure if I completely understand the question. Certainly the no tips come in their own template and can just simply be forwarded. If someone wants to add their logo or coalition or agency logo to that, they can. Other communities have excerpted the no tip and put it into a school newsletter or some other kind of templates, and then still honored some of the branding and certainly given credit to it being a program of Drug Free Action Alliance. We're very flexible about that so that you may customize the tips and use them as best work for your community. Vivian, if that doesn't answer your question, if you could clarify that by typing back in clarification, otherwise we'll assume that got it.
And if I could add just one little piece to that, when it comes to branding, as you saw, our branding is very important. We have a licensing agreement, and as Karen had mentioned earlier, we are very good about allowing communities and coalitions to do what they would like to with the no parent tips and using them in their newsletters and websites and different things. But we do always ask that you credit No as a program of Drug Free Action Alliance. And then once you sign the licensing agreement that we can provide for you, we will then send you print-ready artwork of our logos.
Okay, thank you. On to our next question. Sally is asking how many parents are being surveyed related to the parent survey?
It varies from year to year. I would say it goes anywhere from 300 to 500 people.
That's return surveys.
That's return surveys. However, it goes out to our entire database of anyone that's received the tips for 6 months or longer. And to be honest, I don't know that I have the number of how many we currently have right off the top of my head.
And Michelle, don't we also forward it to those people who are acting as point people, and then they forward a tip on that we send them the link to the survey and ask them to forward it on to their parents as well. So we don't always have an always accurate number of how many parents are actually getting the tip or therefore got invited to do the survey.
Exactly.
But we certainly have pretty consistently anywhere from 250 to 350 parents responding to the survey annually.
And then the next question is also related to the survey from Chrissy. And Chrissy's question is, are the survey responses broken down by state?
They're not currently broken down by state, but we have the ability to break them down by state. So if there was someone very curious about what their particular state looks like and if there's a response from theirs, I would think we could easily do that for you.
And then Kelly's question is, an earlier slide included the logic model. Can that be found on the Drug-Free Action Alliance website?
It will be. That, as well as some more information about the history and the evaluation, will be coming to the website soon. Kind of created some new things for this presentation, and we've not yet been able to update the website with that prior to the webinar, but we will, within the next few weeks, have that.
Thank you. And the next question is from Megan, and she would like to know, will you repeat the price of those workbooks, please?
They are $3.50 a piece. And like I was saying before, there is no particular minimum order. So you can order one workbook or you can order as many as you like. And we can get those to you very quickly.
And then Tina's question is, I want all of this. How do I get this? And I guess the easiest answer to that would be go to the drugfreeactionalliance.org website. You can go to drugfreeactionalliance.org/know. You can sign up to receive the parent tips there. Also, there's information about ordering the workbook and signing the agreement and other things, all related to the Know program. As Michelle had mentioned, the helpthemknow.com website is no longer active, and we've done that so all of our programs can be housed within one website. So if you have questions about Parent to Host and Know, you don't have to have different websites for each one. So we did that to make it a little more convenient for everyone. So hopefully it works. Faith's question is there any time frame that we can expect the Teachable Moments newsletter? And that is a great question. We're looking to roll it out for calendar year 2014. Certainly we'd like to do that sooner, but we will just see how things progress from here. But as soon as it's available, we will send you all notification via email, so you will have access to the Teachable Moments so you can sign up. And Vivian just asked the clarifying question related to the materials, and her question was, I was interested in the media pieces that might be available to use with the copyright issues. And if you go to the agreement that's available on the Know website, then that's spelled out there as to what the copyright requirements are. As Michelle had mentioned, basically it is give Drug-Free Action Alliance credit for developing the Know program, and don't change the logo, slogan, or tagline related to Know. And Emma would like to know, is there any cost for Know tips for other communities or even states, or is it all through email?
All through email, and the good news is it is all free. There was a point in time when we used to charge for this service, but we have worked really hard here to be able to bring them to you for free because we feel that they are very important messages that need to get out to the masses.
And Emma's question is, have you ever thought of sending Know tips through text messages?
That's a great idea, and it's certainly the way young people are communicating today, and us older people as well. So that's definitely something to consider. Thank you for the great idea.
And Tamitra has a question related specifically to one of the tips, and it says, what evidence do you have to support the claim made on your parent tips that excessive use of cellular phones and looking at social media indicates alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use?
That one I would have to pull my sources for. This is Michelle. I'm the one that writes the tips. That was one of the most recent ones. So while it rings a bell, I know there were several different studies I was looking at. If Derek can get your email, maybe you can send in your email, I can look that up for you. We can definitely get the resource I used for that.
Thank you. And Tina would like to know, how can we get the agreement? And if I understand correctly, you can just go to the Know website and access it there. If it's not currently there, then we'll work on getting it there this week, and we'll have that available for you. And we'll send that out with other information related to Teachable Moments as soon as they're available. And there's a question specific to a region that we'll have to look into, because off the top of our heads we're not sure of who's implementing Know where, but we'll certainly research that and can let you know. And Tina would like to know, is this considered an evidence-based program?
For evidence-based program, if you mean being certified by NREP, the National Registry of Effective Programs and Practices, I believe it's for, the PP, we have not met NREP criteria, but we have not also attempted to. Again, if you were on during the evaluation portion, the funding for NO has significantly changed over the years, and when we, in the good old days, had the ability to have an outside evaluator and we're really doing some controlled research, that funding really did dry up by about 2007. And definitely when the economy hit in 08 and 09. NO was originally funded as a local program here in Central Ohio through the local United Way. And with donations drying up and United Way, of course, as you all may know, they changed their priorities about every 5 to 7 years. We were no longer in their priority area because they just changed some of the social issues they were looking at addressing in our community. So with that change in funding, we just were not able to keep up with the outside evaluation component. That said, that's why we wanted to share the logic model and some of that history, because it is certainly designed with evidence-based practice in mind, and it's definitely based in the research. And that is what that logic model and some of the pieces that Michelle had talked about early on covered. We are going to be putting some more information about that on our website because we are getting more and more questions about that from various communities. So we'll let you know when that's also available online.
The next question is, will this webinar be given again, from Richard. Richard, no, this webinar will not be given again. However, we are recording the session and it will be available on the Drug Free Action Alliance website within a week from today, hopefully. We have a big event coming up this weekend, so or later in this week, but it will get to our website as soon as possible. So while it won't be available to attend again, the recording will be available for folks in your community to listen to it and gain the information. The next question from Debbie is, should we assume we are not getting a copy of the PowerPoint presentation? No, Debbie, I can email that out with the other information. It's a very big file, so I'll just send it as a PDF. But if you have questions about anything in particular in the presentation, we can certainly, you can email contact@drugfreeactionalliance.org, and we can filter those questions to the right person. Next question is a statement and a question. Thank you, Janet, for this. Wow, NOAA's really powerful prevention program. I like when the presenter said empowering parents. Could you give some examples of conversation starters?
Wow. We were just sitting here thinking it's 2 o'clock. We're all just about wrapped up, and now we're going to create a note parent tip off the top of our heads. I know for me, and I certainly have Michelle chime in as the one who really writes our tips, there are so many different ways to start a conversation. And I think the piece, we use the term teachable moments all the time, but kids are surrounded by messages about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. So when parents are driving their kids to school and that song comes on the radio, or those DJs are acting up and being silly, and they make a statement that really normalizes marijuana, or those kinds of moments, things that happen on TV, when something happens with one of their friends, or there's something in the news, those are really great opportunities to check in with your kid. I would also think that there are key moments to be sure to, and that would be, before their first big party, before their first date, those kind of key things. Michelle, any other thoughts generally?
I think you covered it. I think some of these talks can be where you sit down and it's kind of a planned thing that, hey, let's sit down and chat and let's go grab an ice cream cone and just talk. And I think other times, maybe the majority of the times, are just those kind of spur of the moment teachable moments, like Allison said, in the car when a certain commercial comes on, or when you're watching TV together and an ad comes on. I think there's really lots of opportunities for the topic to just naturally come up, but I think it's also important to have that time scheduled, and you cover certain pieces, and hopefully these no parent tips will serve to remind parents of the variety of topics that you need to be addressing in these different drug talks.
And the tips also help parents with some topic-specific ways to look at how do I start that conversation. So very often a tip will have kind of a how you start it. And also the No Workbook has a lot of great examples of actual words that parents could use.
We are going to continue our question and answer. I know some folks are needing to leave because of the time constraints. We will continue to run through the questions. If you have additional questions that we have not been able to get to, you can always contact us at 614-540-9985 or contact@drugfreeactionalliance.org. But we will continue to respond to the questions as they come in. Thank you for your time. For those that need to leave for other obligations, we greatly appreciate your attendance today and hope that this information was valuable to you. The next question is, I send out a weekly e-newsletter. Is it okay to include information about Drug Free Action Alliance and no with the link in my newsletter? This comes from Dot, and Dot, that is absolutely okay. I would first, before you do that, reference the letter of agreement that's available, and that's one of the things that we'll be sending out. So just to kind of recap what you'll receive via email, when we get things all situated, you'll receive a PowerPoint from today, the agreement to use No in your community, information about Teachable Moments, and the examples that Butler County folks had offered. So those will all be emailed to you. Tina's suggestion, in addition to text messaging, was to include Facebook as well. Certainly that's something that we can look into. And Alice would like to know, can you send, oh, I covered that. We're getting some duplicate questions. And I see a lot of thank you, thank you, thank yous. And those appear to be all the questions that we have right now. Again, if you have questions, let us know by contacting us via email at contact@drugfreeactionalliance.org or phoning us at 614-540-9985. Thank you again so much for your time and attendance, and also special thanks to Amy, Karen, and Dan for all that they've done, not only for today and working up to the presentation today, but also with the collaboration that they've done through a number of our programs for a number of years. So thank you to everyone, and again, if there's anything you need, feel free to let us know. Have a great afternoon, and we'll look forward to connecting with you in the future. If you're interested about attending the Parents Who Host Lose the Most, Don't Be a Party at a Teenage Drinking webinar, that will be approximately a month from now. It'll be November 12th. Also at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can sign up for that at the drugfreeactionalliance.org events page. And again, that will be much like this setting, where there will be opportunities to share and then opportunities for questions and answers in the end. And we're very excited to continue to share our programming and see it continue to expand throughout the country. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.